Uh, so we'll see if we're we'll see if we're proven right with this Tinder one. But let's move on to the next topic. Why don't we do? It's the mid roll here. Why don't we do a little stratosphere one, a little stratosphere mid roll ad that I think will be very fun to talk about, and that is Altria's. Let me share the screen here. Uh, volume declines
Explain what
for
Altria is for the
this.
people that don't know.
Oh, right. They own Philip Morris, so the largest. Actually, they own Philip Morris USA, so they're the largest cigarette manufacturer in the United States with approximately 40% market share. Let me share the screen here. Again, go to stratosphere.io. It's free. Ryan, you can see that, right? For anyone listening, this is basically tracking, and this is one of their KPIs things that they add on here for companies that disclose a lot of things each year. And as everyone's well aware of, total cigarette shipments or volumes have declined steadily over the last few decades. If we look at 2013, they were at about 100. Oh, wait, here it is 129,000. Last 12 months, we're at 87,000. And what's funny is that in 2020, well, maybe not funny, a bit depressing, is the decline flatlined, which again, I know is a tough year for everyone.
Some to take the edge off, apparently,
Yeah,
for a lot of
maybe
people.
maybe if people think the world's going to hell, as a lot of the perma bears out there in the finance world think, maybe Ultra Group will benefit as people get more nervous. But the big takeaway is that shipment volumes have declined 4.4% a year for the last 10 years. However, if you look at let me pull up some different charts here on their income statement. If you look at their revenue, and they've actually sold off a business, so that's why revenue is slightly down. It would be flatlined. Revenue is actually up, compounded at 2% a year. And if we look at operating income, it's compounded at, let me scroll back up there, 4.4% a year. So if we basically have volumes declining by 4.4% a year, operating income growing at 4.4% a year, obviously we're seeing margin expansion and raising prices, which is a well-known phenomenon for anyone that smokes or anyone that follows these companies. Here's my question to you, Ryan. One, and we've discussed this before. One, can this dynamic of declining volumes and raising prices continue this decade? And can you envision a world where cigarette volumes flatline as I guess it's kind of similar to what we talked about with streaming. Like, is there, what will linear ever flatline and the market share kind of retain itself? Will cigarettes maybe globally or in the US ever flatline? I kind of think it's a fascinating question.
I don't think so.
You think it, boom, eventually it's over. Zero.
Not for longer than like a 3 year period. The, I mean, we saw some sort of flat line through COVID, but the,
Yeah, right. That doesn't count to me. Yeah.
and you showed the last, I think it was 10 years, something like that. These cigarette volumes have been declining for like the last 30 years. I think if you could have said at any point during that, are would volumes flatline? I think that the future is probably going to look a lot like the last 30 years, at least the next 10 years. And there's so many other alternatives now to cigarettes that uh no, I just don't see a scenario where they flatline for like a 5 year period. That just doesn't seem likely. Do I think the trend can continue financially? To a certain point, maybe. But I think the better question is what would you pay? What's the right price to pay for a business that's almost like what's the terminal value? Like imagine there wasn't any other investments
Well,
here.
the terminal value of everything is zero. So
Imagine this is only the cigarette business, and you know volumes decline by 5%. They raise prices by 10% each year. I'm just throwing rough numbers out there,
mhm.
which exacerbates the decline further because you continue to raise prices to a certain point. Can they do that for 10, 15 more years? Are people going to be paying $70 for a pack of cigarettes
Well, I
to
don't think
to
they're
to
not paying that much
replace?
right now. Marlboro is $9 where we are. So I think they could raise it to 20 over the next decade. I wouldn't be shocked.
what is that annual increases? What is that? Probably like
Maybe
7% a year
no clue, but sounds
price
about right.
increases. Yeah, they could, but I think they're gonna lose customers along the way. Not only from them literally dying, but I think there's so many alternatives now.
Yeah. Look, that makes sense, but that was the bear case 15 years ago too. So it's like, dang, could continue,
No, that's why I asked
I mean, and it makes
what's the right
sense.
price for it? Because if they're gonna pay you out 10% a year in pure cash dividends, that might be worth it if you think this thing ships no cigarettes in 10 years or is shipping half the volume that it is now.
If
I
they're
would still
shipping,
take that 10% dividend.
yeah, if they're shipping half the volume that they are now, revenue could be flat and operating income could be up. I wouldn't be surprised, which is
Then
interesting.
then I would say
But
10 times operating income's a
yeah,
fair price to pay. If you think volumes will be half of what they are and operating income will be exactly where it is today in 10 years, I guess it depends what kind of return you want, but
it also depends if you're in a taxable account or not, since a lot of this is, dividends. Yeah, it's also interesting with their what you call it, the non-cigarette stuff that's growing in volumes. It's not nearly as big, but it will be interesting to see what they can do with the pouches, because will that get as a percentage of cigarette volumes? Could it get to 10%? Is it going to get to 20%? I think that's a huge question for the durability of this business.
well, if it doesn't have to grow in order to grow as a percentage of cigarette volumes.
Well, that's right. Yeah, but I'm talking about replacing their revenue, because it's not nowhere near the size yet to replace their revenue or maybe even earnings, but it could get there soon. But that's a harder bet to make because you're betting on really fast growth.
I would much rather own. I hate talking about the entire can or the entire tobacco space or anything within nicotine because it just frustrates me that we had such a gem in Swedish Match.
The Philip
And
Morris stole it. Yeah.
um,
Philip Morris International for anyone confused.
I would be a little more scared owning. I think anything that didn't have a really prominent, profitable alternative to cigarettes in their portfolio. So um, the one that I mean, it's Philip Morris International now that's got Zyn, right? So
Yeah. Plus, I forget the name of the other thing that's very popular as well. I forget. Heat
Juul
not.
vape, whatever.
No, a heat not burn thing. Plus,
Blue,
uh,
is that the thing?
no, IQOS. Remember that thing?
Oh, right.
Yeah. I forget what the numbers are on that, but apparently that's doing well too. All right, let's move on to the next topic as we got 15 minutes left. Sometimes these go quickly. It's kind
Okay, a
of
couple things I found interesting. Um, Roku, there